Let's talk about SaaS pricing. Just like with everything when it comes to your SaaS product, you want to test and adjust whatever you do. And pricing is no different. But when you price your product right in the beginning, then you will have more runway and more money to continue growing in the long term. And this is going to be a huge differentiator between if you fail or succeed, especially when you bootstrap. This is going to either allow you to move forward or not. So you want to get it right. This video is part of a series that we're doing, taking you through the different parts and models of pricing for your SaaS so that you can, at the end of it, answer the simple question of how should you price your SaaS? And today is all about flat rate pricing. Should you use flat rate pricing in your SaaS? And the answer is no, you should not. Definitely not. Yeah, no, that was a quick one, wasn't it? I guess we're done. Thank you. Bye-bye. I can go now, right? Okay. There is a little bit of nuance here, and there are some very specific cases where I would maybe use flat rate pricing in my SaaS. Let's talk about that. But let's start with what's wrong with flat rate pricing. I mean, it's the easiest solution, right? You just set a price and that's it. That's the price of the product. Want it, take it. Don't want it, don't take it. As a general rule, it's not a great way to price your SaaS product. But to understand why, let's understand what makes a pricing model good or bad. When you are pricing your product, your goal is to always maximize how much a customer is willing to pay without causing them to churn because the price is too high. It's this gentle balance that we all aspire to, and most products never really fully reach a perfect model. You continuously improve it and get better until you get to a point where you are maximizing revenue because you are charging as much as you can without causing people to leave because it's just too expensive. It's a fine art that we are all working at for the lifetime of our product. It's not just something that you do once and you're done with. So with that understanding, what is wrong with flat rate pricing? Well, for some customers, it's going to be exactly the right price. Let's say my product is $5. Some customers, that's how much they can pay. Great, wonderful. But for some customers, it's going to be too cheap. And when the product is too cheap, they could pay more, they'd be willing to pay more for the service that I provide. One of two options would happen. One option is they're gonna use my product and just be happy with the prices. Cool, they're paying a really cheap amount for something that they'd be willing to pay more for. Another type of customer, and that's usually the enterprise ones, they think that if something is cheap, it's not good. So they are going to go looking for something that's more expensive, thinking that it's better. A little ridiculous? Yeah, sure. But that's the human psyche, I guess. But before we move on, just so you know, this channel is full of helpful videos just like this one to help you get started in your SaaS and micro SaaS journey. If you're serious about starting your own SaaS business, you should be following. So go ahead, give this video a like, follow us to see the next videos we are posting every week, and I will see you there. I'm gonna take a sip of coffee while you do that. And the other types of customers, this is going to be too expensive for them. And when your price is too expensive and there's no other option, they just can't use your product. If your product is, let's say, $20 and you have some customers where $20 is a lot for them, especially for whatever it is you offer, they're just not going to use you. Either they'll find something else or they'll decide that they don't really need it. So you're losing on both ends. You're losing customers who might be willing to pay less. You're losing the less money that they are willing to pay. They're not going to pay you anything. And you're losing the customers who are definitely willing to pay more. They're just not going to pay more because the option doesn't exist. It's a lose-lose situation. You're not maximizing on either end. A much better option would be something flexible, something that charges more from customers who can and are willing to pay more, and less from customers who can't and will not pay more. But what flexible options do you have? The main two that people use are feature-based pricing and usage-based pricing. And I will talk about all of them later on in this series. But in today's video, I do want to talk about flat rate pricing and when it might be the right choice for you, when you might want to use it. But if you do want to watch these videos, either one of them will be coming out next week or something, or they'll be linked down below if they're already out. So check that out. So when would you want to use flat rate pricing? Really, I can only think of one situation, which is you have a very basic and simple product that really doesn't offer a whole lot of features that you can can be flexible with the pricing of. Something very basic that you know customers are also not going to be willing to pay more for, even if they can, because of how basic it is. For example, you have a Chrome extension that allows people to take screenshots of their browser, their pages in the browser. You have a Shopify app that allows you to show a really simple banner on the store that really doesn't do a whole lot. You maybe have an app that does favicon editing. That's super basic. So why would I be willing to pay more than, let's say, $5 for something like that? In this case, it makes sense to have flat rate pricing because there's not a whole lot to do here. Even the bigger customers, the one that can, are not willing to pay for something like that a whole lot because of the value that it provides them. It's just not that great of a value. But then there's a different question to ask yourself. Why would you create something like that? Why would you create something that really doesn't provide that much value and there's no reason for customers to be willing to pay you a whole lot? When you think about it, it also makes sense that customers are not going to jump in to actually use your product in this kind of case because it's so basic. So why would you do that? Generally speaking, I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend doing proper market research for your product and actually making the decision of what to develop according to what people would actually need and be willing to pay for. By the way, I'll pause really quickly. We are working on a course on how to develop your very own Shopify app that can be successful. This course is going to take you all the way from point A of finding the right idea and doing this market research that I'm talking about and to getting your very first paying customer. We are working on it right now. We are building an app with you so that you can follow along and actually execute the same thing. So if you're interested, I will also have a link down below to the waiting list. It's gonna come out really soon, or maybe by the time you're watching it, it's already out and you can go check it out. Back to the video. So I would really only go for something so simple that it makes sense to do flat rate pricing for in one of three cases. The first case is maybe you have a bigger product in mind, or maybe you already have a bigger product that you launched and now you want to build something basic that kind of relates to this product but not really, and this is going to be a lead generation to the bigger product. For example, we have ReConvert, our app. Maybe we want to create a very basic Shopify app that allows merchants to add a very basic element to their store, and this is going to cost them somewhere between $3 to $5 depending on what we do, and this is going to be a great lead generation tool for the bigger app, for ReConvert, because people easily install something like that because it's cheaper. That's one option. The second option is you are not sure about your abilities yet, which is totally valid. That's fine. When you first build a SaaS product, a micro SaaS product, a Shopify app, whatever it is, it makes sense that you're not sure you're able to do that because you've never done it before, right? So you might want to build something very, very, very basic just to kind of see that you understand the process, that you were able to get it out, and then you've already built it. You want to let it sit there and generate revenue while you work on the bigger thing that, again, you had in mind, like I said before. So if this is kind of a test for yourself, but you've already created it, why not launch it and let it generate revenue at the same time, even if it's just $5 a customer? And the last case, which is the main case I would go for, to be honest, is if you're building an MVP. An MVP, for those of you who don't know, is minimum viable product, and if you've been watching the channel for a while, you should already know what it is. But the idea is that you have this big product in mind that you're going to create. Instead of creating it, you're going to create a very lean version of what it's going to be. And instead of waiting until you have the perfect product, you're going to launch your MVP already. No reason to wait. You can get feedback from customers, you can get payment from customers, and have more revenue and tools to keep it going. And maybe your MVP is so lean that it doesn't make sense to create a convoluted pricing plan based on the features that you will have in the future. By the way, if your MVP is so lean that it only makes sense to do a single tier flat rate pricing, that's a good MVP. That's a sign for a good MVP. You want it to be super duper lean. Take that in mind. And that way, you are already generating revenue while you're working on the bigger product. That is goals. Aim for that. Next week, we are going to talk about features-based pricing, and that's going to go a little bit deeper into how I would actually recommend you start pricing your SaaS. But it's still not my all-time favorite. We're getting there. So make sure to follow and subscribe if you want to get to next week's video, and I'll see you there. In the meantime, this is what YouTube thinks you should watch, and this is what I think you should watch next.